All right, let's jump straight into it. Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're conducting a strictly analytical, objective pronunciation diagnostic based on the provided audio data. We are going to be evaluating the mechanics of articulation against American English standards, using a scale where 100 is a native speaker and 0 is essentially a CEFR A1 level.
So our framework for this evaluation is acoustic and phonemic alignment analysis. Sounds a bit technical, right? But really, we're just looking purely at mechanical data, how well the tongue, lips, and jaw hit standard phonetic benchmarks. Because honestly, it's the failure of these physical movements that directly causes semantic distortion. It's exactly why human listeners, or AI transcription tools, end up perceiving completely different words than what was intended.
First up, let's take a look at the global impact and the rationale behind the overall score. The baseline intelligibility here is functional. You can definitely grasp the broad contextual intent, but that functional layer is heavily compromised by some really critical phonemic substitutions.
The overall intelligibility score for this audio is 68 out of 100. Now, while a 68 means general communication is happening, this number actually masks some pretty severe but totally correctable mechanical failures. Even though the overall context survives, the physical missteps inside the mouth mean that individual words are literally being lost or mutated into something else entirely.
Just look at the direct result of these missing physical movements in this transcription. The automatic speech recognition system literally heard online discs heavily outweigh the benefits. Now, obviously, the intended word in the script was risks, not discs, but because the speaker's mouth didn't physically form the sounds required for risks, the AI basically had no choice but to hallucinate a completely different word that fit the acoustic data it received.
Moving right along to Section 2, the phoneme failure analysis. Let's get granular and break down the severe articulatory errors that are actively causing these AI hallucinations.
Here's the raw data for the most heavily degraded phonemes, ranked from the lowest score on up. This is the root mechanical cause of the errors we just talked about.
The absolute most critical issue here is that R sound, sitting right at the bottom with a score of 15. Instead of pulling the tongue back, it's striking the gum ridge behind the teeth like a hard D, which just destroys the intended meaning. Next, the N at 25 points shifted backward in the throat to become a velar NG. The fricative Z completely stopped its airflow to become a D. And the A vowel? It's just lacking the required jaw drop. Ultimately, these are purely issues of physical space inside the mouth.
And this slide brilliantly illustrates how these mechanical articulation errors map one-to-one with semantic failures. Because the R was articulated as a D, risks becomes discs. Shifting that forward N to a backward ung turns ban into bang, and swapping the buzzing Z for a stopped D turns has into had. It's incredible to see the mechanics dictate the meaning so strictly.
Let's keep going with the phoneme analysis and look at some secondary weaknesses. These might not mutate the entire word, but they seriously degrade the structural clarity of the syllables.
Even in these higher scoring ranges, missing the mechanics still does a lot of damage. Take the dark L at 60 points, for example. Failing to correctly articulate it at the end of a syllable basically swallows the sound, muffling words like health and childhood. And with the theta and the they sounds, the tongue isn't quite making it between the teeth, creating a muffled noise instead of a crisp friction. These little details are exactly what separate a 68 from an 85 or a 90.
Let's move into Section 3, Target Word Diagnostics. We're going to see how those granular phoneme errors actually build up into critical vocabulary failures in the script. We've pulled the top 10 words that desperately need improvement.
We'll start by isolating the bottom 5 words in the dataset, the ones where the acoustic signals suffered the absolute most catastrophic breakdown.
Check out these lowest scores. Risks is down at a 10 because both the initial consonant and that complex ending cluster just completely collapsed. Ban at 20 literally shifted to the word bang. But really, focus on has at 30 points. When you replace that buzzing z with a sudden d, it doesn't just sound a little off. It forces the listener to hear had, which incorrectly changes the entire grammatical tense and completely wrecks the timeline of the information. Plus, far-reaching loses its rhotic flavor entirely, and childhood loses its middle due to that unarticulated dark L.
Now let's look at the remaining 5 words on our list, which really highlight structural weaknesses, specifically when it comes to complex consonant clusters and syllable stress. These words score a bit higher, from 55 to 75, but they expose struggles with English rhythm and structural transitions. In a word like unchecked, missing that audible release on the final k and t cluster renders the past tense practically invisible to the listener. And in words like psychologists or restrictions,
The mouth is working so hard to navigate those dense consonant clusters that the natural stress flattens out, making the whole word sound labored and awkward.
As we wrap up this unvarnished diagnostic, I want to leave you with this thought. Pronunciation isn't some mystical talent. It is literally physical mechanics. Whether it's striking your teeth for an R or pushing an N into the back of your throat, the data shows exactly what physical movements cause AI hallucinations. Once you can mechanically map where the signal breaks down, the only question left is, how quickly can you retrain those muscles to reclaim your intended meaning?